The nervous system. The nervous system includes all the neural tissues in the body and also made up of organs which are the brain and spinal cord. The neural tissue that are found in the nervous system contain two kinds of cells, which are the neurons that send signals and also receive the signals, and neuroglia cells are the ones that support and protect neurons. The organs of the nervous system are the brain and spinal cord. We have the sensory receptors of the sense organs, which are the eyes and the ears, and nerves that connect the nervous system with other. Overview of nervous system. So our first lecture will be the general overview of nervous system. The nervous system has anatomical and functional divisions, which we will discuss in this lecture. Nervous system is the system that detects and responds to changes inside and outside the body, and its stimulation provide immediate response, and together with endocrine system they control important aspects of body function and maintain homeostasis. Nervous system, they consist of brain, spinal cord and peripheral nerves. The structure and organization of these tissues that form these components enable rapid communication between different parts of the body. So this is a chart showing us the division of nervous system. There are two. We have the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is the one that made up of the brain and spinal cord that forms the information and processing unit, while the peripheral nervous system is a system that has two divisions. We have the sensory division and motor division. The sensory division is the one that receives the stimulus from the environment and also transmit the impulse to the central nervous system. So this sensory division, we have two. We have the somatic sensory receptors that monitor the outside world and operation in it, and we have the visceral receptors that monitor the internal condition and other status of other organ system. But the second division of peripheral nervous system is the motor division or efferent division, that is divided into two. We have the somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system is one that connects with skeletal muscles, while the autonomic nervous system is divided into two. You have the parasympathetic and sympathetic division. So and each two of them is acting on smooth muscles, cardiac muscles and glands, as explained before. Division nervous system. For distinctive purposes, nervous system are grouped into two, which are central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is the central nervous system is the largest part and includes brain and spinal cord. The head contains the brain, while the spinal cord contains the head contains the brain, while the spinal cavity contains the spinal cord. So the two organs that made up the central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system is a collective term for nervous system structure that do not lie within the central nervous system, and the large majority of axon bundles are called nerves, which consider to belong to PNS, even when their cell bodies belong to the brain or spinal cord. Functionally, the peripheral nervous system is a neurological bridge between the environment and CNS, called the sensory system or division, and also between CNS and effector, called the motor system or division. So the sensory division is the one that consists of sensory receptors and sensory or afferent neurons that connects receptor to CNS, and these sensory neurons are part of spinal cord. So the sensory receptor, they are the one that they receive the stimulus from the environment, and the sensory neuron transmit the impulse to the central nervous system for processing. But motor division, they are divided into two. We have the somatic and autonomic nervous system. A is the somatic nervous system that consists of network of motor or efferent neurons that connect or carry messages form the central nervous system to each skeletal muscles or effector, and these motor neurons are also part of spinal and cranial nerves. And second one is the autonomic nervous system that connects or transmits the signal messages from the central nervous system to the smooth muscle or cardiac muscles and glands. And this consists of two parts. We have the motor or efferent nerve fibers that extend from CNS to the ganglia outside the CNS, and also motor efferent neurons that extend from ganglia outside the CNS to the effector organ, which is smooth and cardiac muscles or gland. Autonomic nervous system is divided into two, which are sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And this division of nervous system are explained in the chart that will be shown later after this slide, that is showing the division of the nervous system into central and peripheral nervous system. Lecture 2 will be on the structure of nervous system. The nervous system consists of vast number of cells called neurons, which are specialized for intercellular communication, and they are supported by a special type of connective tissue called neuroglia. So the cells that we're talking about is neurons. And what are neurons? Neurons are electrically excitable cells that processes and transmit information by electrical and chemical signaling, or it's also an excitable cells responsible for sending and receiving signals in form of action potential. And you must know that all neurons, majority of neurons are amitotic, which means that at some certain point in their development they lose their centros after they lack the ability to undergo mitosis. Luckily, neurons are very long-lived cells, and some can easily survive the entire lifespan of an organism if they are given if they have access to adequate nutrition and oxygen in a supportive environment. Neurons, they are core components of nervous system, which includes the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral ganglia, and they vary in size. We have some tiny neurons in CNS that are only 1 millimeter long, where, whereas there are some in PNS that are up to 1 meter or longer. So this is a structure of a neuron that shows the parts we have. We have the cell body, we have the axon, and we have the dendrite. So the cell body is the one that contains the major nucleus, the organelles that are found in a neuron, while the dendrite and the axon are the processes that are found. So this is the cell body, and we have the nucleus body. Around the cell body we have the nucleolus, we have the nucleus, and we have the mitochondria, and there are also some other organelles that are found in the cell body. The two processes, we have the dendrite, which is the first processes, and there is an axon hillock that projects from the cell body before it now tapers and continue as the axon. And we have some branches of the axon called the axon collateral, and this is one that represents the structure of it. So each neuron consists of cell body, as I've said, the dendrite, the axons, and the terminals. And neurons are commonly referred to as nerve cells, and bundle of axons bound together are called nerves. So the cell body. The cell body are the most conspicuous parts of a neuron, and they ranges from 5 to 100 micrometer in diameter. They are metabolically active, and they are responsible for maintaining cytoplasmic volume of neuron, and also responsible for manufacturing or synthesizing protein the neuron needs. And this high level of activities reflected in the neurons is because of the cytoplasm organelles that are found within the cytoplasm. So because of more number of organelles that are found inside cytoplasm to help him to have help the cell body to show this high level of metabolic activities. The cell body, they have organelles which are the free ribosomes and rough endoplast reticulum in abundance that help to synthesize protein, and Golgi apparatus and nucleoli also involved in protein synthesis in the cell body. And the large number of mitochondria found in the cell body also shows its highly metabolic activities, and there are lysosomes and smooth endoplast in the cell body. We have the two processes that are formed around the cell body of a neuron, which are the dendrite and the axon. Each of these processes are the one that extend from all neuron cell bodies, and they are long arms, which are called the cytoplasmic extensions. And these processes, they allow the neuron to communicate with other cells, and most neurons have these two type of cells, which are one or more dendrites and one axon. So this is the structure of a neuron. I want to show us how the dendrite and the axon look like. So this is a dendrite, which can be more than one in a neuron, and we have the axon, which is only one axon in a neuron. So the dendrites, also known as branch or tree, they are typically short, highly forked processes that resemble the branches of a tree limb. They receive input from other neurons, which they transmit in the form of electrical impulses towards the cell body. They have short processes that receives and carry impulses toward the cell body, and they have the same structure as axons, but usually shorter and branching. In motor neurons, they form part of synapse, and sensory neurons form sensory receptors that respond to specific stimuli. However, these dendrites, they do not generate action potentials, so their cytoplasm contain most of the organelles as found in cell body, which include the mitochondria, ribosomes, rough endoplasmic reticulum, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and Golgi apparatus. So this is the dendrites that have many branches, but it's not as long as the axon. But they also help to receive and carry signals or impulses, but they do not conduct action potential. Axons are extensions of cell bodies, and each neuron has only a single axon, sometimes called a nerve fibers outside CNS. An axon was defined as a process that carried a signal away from cell body. They are usually longer than dendrites, and their membrane is also called asolema, and the encloses cytoplasmic extension of cell body. So large axons and those of peripheral nerves are surrounded by myelin sheaths, which consist of squamous cells arranged along the length of axons. So these axons, they are considered processes that can generate and conduct action potential. So each axon arises from an area of cell body called the hillock, and they tapers to form the slender axon, which is wrapped in the insulating myelin sheath. So depending on the type of neuron, the axon may range in length from short to very long, and in some neurons, the axon accounts for most of the length of that neuron. Example is an axon of motor neuron that is going to the foot from the lumbar portion of the spinal cord, and this axon will extend from that lower portion of the spinal cord down to the lower limb and to the foot. And extending from the axons are branches that typically arise at right angle to the axon, called axon collaterals. And as I said, the plasma membrane of the axon is called the asolema, and the cytoplasm is known as axoplasm. So this is the structure with the axons, and we have the axon hillock that is extending from the cell body before it tapers and to form a slender axon. And this is the branches that arise on the right angle to the axon that are called the axon collateral. And the cytoplasm inside this axon is called the exoplasm, and the plasma membrane is called the axolemma. So the functional regions of the neurons. Neurons have three main functional regions, which is the receptive region that comprises of the cell bodies and dendrites, the conducting region that is the axon, and the secretory region, which is the axon. So the receptor region, which I said is the one that consists of the dendrites and the cell body, are the one that may receive signal from other neurons or monitor the external and internal environment via sensory receptors. So when these signals received are collected in the cell body, they send the signal down the axon, which is the conducting region, that conduct the signal to the axon terminus. So when the signal reaches the axon terminus, so the axon terminus are the secretory region that now secrete the chemicals that trigger changes in the target cell. So looking at the neuron, the dendrites, they receive the signal by monitoring the external, because they monitor the external and internal environment via their sensory receptors. So they receive the signal and process the signal, process in the cell body, which are sent down to the axon. So axon, being a conducting region, will now transport the signal the from themselves to the terminus. So when the axon reaches the terminus, the axon terminus will now be the one that will secrete the chemicals that will now trigger changes in the target cell. So the structural group of the neurons, some of the part of neurons, they are grouped together and form some components. For example, we have the axons. The group of axons are the one that form the white matter. So the axons of the neurons group together, they form the white matter, and they are found at the periphery of spinal cord. That is why, looking at brain and spinal cord, white matter is found at the periphery, while we have the white matter at the center of the brain. And cell bodies, which form the gray matter of nervous system, are found at the periphery of the brain and the center of spinal cord. So white matter and gray matter, they are found in opposite places in brain and spinal cord. So white matter at the periphery of spinal cord, while gray matter is at the center of spinal cord. So now we have white matter at the center of brain and gray matter at the periphery of brain. So the CNS and the PNS, they are specific neuron components grouped together. So the cell bodies of neurons that are found within the clusters in the CNS are called nuclei, while the cluster of cell bodies in the PNS are called ganglia. So when when the cell bodies are in clusters in CNS, they are called nuclei, but when they are in clusters in PNS, they are called ganglia. And when the axons tend to be bundled together in the CNS and PNS, these bundles are referred to as tracts, and in PNS they are referred to as nerves. So we have 6 components here. We have the white matter formed by the group of axons, and we have the gray matter formed by the group of cell bodies. We have the clusters of cell bodies of neurons that form the nuclei in CNS, and clusters of cell bodies of neurons that form the ganglia in CNS. And also we have the bundles of axons in CNS called tracts, and bundles of axons in PNS called nerves. This chart is also trying to tell us some of how these components organize themselves in the nervous system. So at the central nervous system, we have the gray matter organization that form the neural cortex, which is the gray matter on the surface of the brain at the periphery. And we have the white matter that form the tracts, which is the bundles of axons, as I've said earlier. And we have the nuclei, which is the neurons of cell bodies, that is the clusters of cell bodies that form the nuclei in the CNS. And we have the higher centers, which are the most complex centers in the brain. And peripheral nervous system also have a gray matter and white matter. So the gray matter is now also arranged here. We have the collection of cell bodies in the PNS, and we have the bundles of axons in the PNS. So the cell bodies, if you look at the peripheral nervous system, that's the gray matter at the center of spinal cord. So the gray matter in CNS is at the periphery, but gray matter is at the center in spinal cord. White matter is at the center of the brain, and white matter is at the periphery of spinal cord. So that is the arrangement of the bundles or components of nervous system structures. So classification of neurons. How are neurons classified? Neurons are classified, one, based on their structures. We have the multipolar neurons, which has more than two processes, and we have the unipolar neurons that have only one process, and we have bipolar neurons that have two processes. So multipolar neurons, they are the type of neurons that are common in central nervous system, and they include all the skeletal muscles motor neurons. The second one is the unipolar neurons, that they have only one processes, and they are found in sensory neurons of peripheral nervous system. And we have the third one, which is the bipolar neurons, that are found in special sensory organ, which are sight, smell, and hearing, and they have two processes, which is only the dendrite and one axon. A diagram showing the three type of neurons based on their processes. We have the multipolar neuron. They have one axon that arrives from the cell body, and five dendrites that are also project from the cell body. That is more than two processes there. But the unipolar neuron, they have one process, but they look like two, but compared with the bipolar, unipolar is projecting from one point, while bipolar is projecting from two different points on the axons. So that is the three types of the three category of neurons when they are classified based on their structures. So a nerve is a cork-like structures. A nerve is a cork-like structures that contain many axons, and these nerves are categorized into three groups based on direction that signals are conducted, which are the sensory nerve, the motor nerve, and the mixed nerve. The sensory nerve or afferent nerves, they conduct signal generated on the dendrites of these neurons to the central nervous system, while motor nerve, they conduct signal from the central nervous system along motor neurons to their target organs or effector muscles, which are muscles and gland. And we have two types. We have the somatic nerve and autonomic nerve. Somatic nerve, they involve voluntary and reflex skeletal muscle contraction, while autonomic nerve involve in cardiac and smooth muscle contraction and glandular secretion. While the third one, which is the mixed nerve, they contain both motor and sensory axons, and they conduct both incoming sensory information and outgoing muscle command in the same bundle. The second category of the nerve are the one that can be categorized into two groups based on where they connect to CNS. I know we have two organs in CNS, which is the brain and spinal cord. So the first one is the spinal nerves that connect to the spinal cord, while the cranial nerves are the one that originate from the brain. The spinal nerves, they are the one that innervate much of the body, and they connect through the spinal column to the spinal cord, and they are given letter number designations according to the vertebral column through which they connect to the spinal cord. And two is the cranial nerves that originate or connect to the brain, and they innervate part of the head and connect directly to the brainstem, and they are also typically assigned Roman numerals from 1 to 12. The neuroglia, also known as glial cells, they are the non-neuronal or non-excitable cells that form myelin sheaths and provide protection for the neurons of the CNS. and in the PNS they are called Schwann cells. Neuroglia. There are four types of neuroglia in the central nervous system. They are the astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, microglia, and ependymal cells. Astrocytes, they have large cell bodies with many processes, and they have numerous projections that anchor neuron to their blood supply, and they are the most abundant of the neuroglia cells in the CNS. The function is that they regulate external chemical environment of neurons by removing excess ions and recycling neurotransmitters released during synaptic transmission. And the second one is that they anchor neuron to their blood supply, which means they serve as a point whereby they mediate an exchange between the neurons and the vascular system. The second one is the oligodendrocytes, which are the cells that coat axons in the CNS within their cell membrane, forming a specialized membrane called myelin, producing so-called myelin sheaths. So the oligodendrocytes, they are the one that helps in the elaboration or production of myelin sheaths, and they have smaller cell bodies with fewer processes. And the function of the myelin sheath is to provide insulation to the axon that allows electrical signals to propagate more efficiently. The third one is the microglia, which are the smallest and the least numerous neuroglia with many fine branch processes, and they are like specialized macrophages or type of white blood cell capable of phagocytosis that protect neurons of the central nervous system, and they are found in all regions of brain and spinal cord, which help in defensive and immunological functions. And the last types of neuroglia in the CNS is the ependymal cells, which are cells with highly branched processes that contact neuroglia directly, and they are also now called ependymocytes. Ependymal cells are also called ependymocytes that line the cavities of central nervous system and make up walls of ventricles. These cells, their function is that they secrete and create a cerebrospinal fluid, and also thought to act as neural stem cells. So they are epithelial lining that line the ventricles of the brain and also the central canal of the spinal cord, and also their cells create and secrete cerebrospinal fluid. So this is the figure showing the neuroglia in the CNS. We have the astrocytes that has many processes and they have numerous projections. So they anchor neuron to the blood supply. You can see them anchoring the neuron to the vessels in this diagram. The second one is the oligodendrocyte that helps in the production of myelin sheaths around the axons of the neuron. And we have the microglia cell, which is a white blood cell type in the tissue that help protect against infection, that have defensive and immunological functions. And the ependymal cells, they are the epithelial lining that line the central canal of the spinal cord and the walls of the ventricles of the brain. The peripheral nervous system also have their neuroglia, which are two. We have the satellite cells and the Schwann cells. The satellite cells are also called the amphicytes, and they are the small cells that surround neurons in sensory, sympathetic, and parasympathetic ganglia. The function of this cell is to help in regulation of external chemical environment. 2. They are highly sensitive to injury and inflammation, and they appear to contribute to pathological states such as chronic pain. The second one is the Schwann cells, also called neurilemocytes. They also form a myelin sheath like oligodendrocytes, and they have a psychotic activity and clear they have phagocytotic activity and clear cellular debris that allows for the growth of PNS neurons. So these are the two neuroglial cells found in the PNS. We have the satellite cells, also known as amphicytes, and we have the Schwann cell, also known as neurilemocytes. So we have to take note of their functions that they perform. So this is the squam cells that is forming a myelin sheet around this axon, as shown in this diagram. The synapse, they are essential to neuronal functions, and neurons are cells that specialize to pass signals to individual target cells, and synapses are the means by which they do so. So at a synapse, plasma membrane of a signal passing neuron comes into close apposition with membrane of target cell, and these both neurons contain extensive array of molecular machinery that link the two membranes together and carry out the signaling processes. And these synapse, we have two types. We have the chemical synapse and electrical synapse. Chemical synapse is the one that release a neurotransmitter when the presynaptic neuron binds to the receptor located in the postsynaptic neuron. While the electrical synapse is the one that connect the cell membrane of the two neurons that want to communicate by producing a ion channel that are capable of passing electrical current in order to cause a voltage changes in presynaptic and postsynaptic cells.